T-minus 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, space nerds. Welcome back to the Launch Sequence Podcast. I'm your host, Space Tomato, and I've come to talk with you about spaceships. But not any spaceship, no. The very first industrial and large alien spaceship is coming to Star Citizen. I brought in the Lorstradamus himself to talk about how this might actually make a difference in the game, just like aliens in general. Is the main storyline going to involve aliens? Are we going to be able to play as aliens at some point? This is all an alien episode because it's alien
discussion
week. Yeah, kids, everybody come on. Yeah. All right, so Mr. Astro Historian, why don't we start out by qualifying you? Why are you the person to come and talk about with aliens on Alien Week?
Well, according to the venerable PC magazine, I am a Star Citizen specialist. So I have the qualifications. I have the actual qualifications, but I'm also for those of you who don't know, I do I'm the Astro Historian. I do like a lore channel on YouTube called the Astro Historian. Been doing this for quite a long time. I cover mostly Star Citizen, but I've covered other games as well, and I have paid attention to a lot of interesting things in Star Citizen lore, aliens being one of them. And Alien Week is always a fun time. I've always joked that, or not joked. I've always observed that we really didn't we don't really get anything for Alien Week, and then I realized recently that in the last 3 years we've got something for Alien Week every Alien Week.
Like a ship.
Oh. Well, like the Railen was released on Alien, or was sold on Alien, or at least revealed on Alien Week in 2021. Last year we got the Prowler utility during Alien Week. So like we always get like a ship or some sort of like new flare or new something for Alien Week.
Yeah, but where's the merchantman?
As of recently. Huh?
Where's the merchantman though? Like that's what we should be getting for Alien Week, right?
His name is Wicklow. He lives in Stanton.
He's not nearly as exciting a ship launch as I was expecting.
Well, the thing that's even more exciting about the merchantman is that we'll know we're going to be getting the merchantman once they start releasing other brand new ships, because they'll have to build like they've been doing, like with the Ironclad and the Galaxy and such. They're building out the framework with what they have, their palette, the toolkit that they have for each manufacturer, and the Banu, they need to build a toolkit from scratch. And what's exciting about the Railen is that the Railen is likely being built because they needed to build a toolkit for a much larger Xi'an ship, which is in Squadron 42, which we've seen hints of through some of the trailers, at least the interior of and a little bit of the exterior.
Yeah.
So we know that the Xi'an ships were being built out for Squadron, which is why they already have the all the stuff we're seeing inside the Railen and outside the Railen is because of stuff they already had for Squadron, possibly many years ago.
And what we've seen of Squadron when it comes to the Xi'an has been pretty cool. Now they're not being subtle about the fact that the Xi'an are pretty closely involved with whatever happens in Squadron. We saw a derelict Xi'an like capital ship briefly in one of the trailers. One of the pilots is talking about the Xi'an in a scene, which obviously, like, I mean, it's not that big a deal.
A Xi'an hauler specifically.
Yeah, but they're definitely referencing them a lot. And then there's also the Xi'an ship that pops up at the end of Squadron 42. It feels like
the Squadron 42 trailer, yeah.
Yeah, it feels like they are kind of like sort of still making it feel like they're almost leading us into the fact that the Xi'an are going to be pretty heavily involved in Squadron. Do you think that they're also going to be pretty heavily involved in Star Citizen? Like you're going to run into them a lot more in the game than what aliens are in the game right now?
Oh yeah. I mean, the Zero aliens that are in game right now, or like the Van Duel and the head and torso of Wicklow. No. The thing that's different between all of those is that like the head and torso of Wicklow, I was watching through in my last stream, because someone had mentioned that Squadron 42 was it was just going to be a very linear, like almost adventure story-esque game. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they were like, well, based off of the 1 hour prologue, all it was go to a place that was scripted and you had no choice, and you just walk through the story. And I was like, what? That's not the case. And how can I illustrate this? I'm like, oh, right, the vertical slice exists. It's old and some of the models are out of date and that kind of thing, but you get the general story, the quality of the story and the quality and like the kind of gameplay you can see at least is the same.
Yeah.
You can see the evolution, and I would just heavily suggest people do that in general for if you're interested in the Squadron 42, is watch the Moro tour, then watch the vertical slice, and then watch the prologue.
There's also an extra bit that I would put in there that's super telling is the briefing room episode that they put out.
Yeah, on the Asiato station.
Yeah, they explain a lot of their level design there.
And there's also a developer commentary track, like a version for the vertical slice, which explains a ton of what they're planning on doing for Squadron. And so, but in that process, it was clear that through talking through a lot of that stuff was that the Xi'an have a huge part of it, but the Banu also, as we're watching through it, there was a scene with the slavers where they were like, the Banu is coming to pick up their load or their order.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, we're below. Well, we can take some from Croc, and it's like, but then Croc can't. Then Croc will be mad when it's like, well, then Croc can pay on time.
Yeah,
it was this the conversation, and I realized they've been talking about the Banu, and I was like, oh right, the Banu are in Squadron. And my guess is that they needed a head and shoulders or head and torso for of a Banu for Squadron, because you probably talk to the Banu. We probably don't actually meet them face to face. We probably talk to them at some point in the mission, in one of the missions, to be like, hey, get out, or you're under arrest, kind of thing. And but most you just need them on comms. And it's like, oh, that's the reason why we have Wicklow, is because they had a head and torso of a Banu already ready to go and rigged for Squadron. And those same trailers, there's also a towards the end of the last trailer they released, right before you go see the Kr'Thak pop out, clearly from the inside of a Xi'an ship.
Yeah.
There's a beam of light that comes out, and you see this body that's tumbling through space. And if you look at the body, it's a Xi'an corpse. So CIG likely already has a full model body of a Xi'an. They just need to rig the skeleton and give them animation. And they've been doing that with this Vanduul recently. In some of the monthly reports, they've been talking about importing some of the Vanduul animations and for that sort of thing.
Which trailer was it that you're talking about? This is the answer. This is the Hold the Line one.
No, it's the one after the one. It was the trailer that came in at the end of the prologue demonstration they did in 2024.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. I just jumped to the scene. Let me, I could pull it up here for us so that anybody who's watching can see what he's referring to. Maybe. Hold on. Why didn't it show up? Show up for me.
Maybe double check to make sure it's
there.
Right.
We go. It's right here.
Yeah, they're right there. If you tap it forward a little bit, you'll see what it looks like, because the light will hit it a little bit better. You can start seeing it. That is a Xi'an. If you look at the helmet and look at the body structure,
yeah,
that's not a just Vanduul. It's too chunky to be a Vanduul and a human. And if you look at the helmet, it's very similar shapes to the Xi'an helmets we've seen in the past.
That's definitely a very stylized look. And yeah, you can tell this is kind of like Xi'an architecture in the background. I never really noticed this, the blocky stuff back there. And then this is clearly a Xi'an ship too. That's
clear. And if you watch how it opens,
and then that's his Xi'an door, dude. It's kind of crazy.
That's the Kr'Thak.
What I've been noticing with the Xi'an stuff and how it opens, I actually have a video. Let me see if I can pull this video up real quick. It was their original sort of previs for how they wanted the Xi'an architecture to work. And it looks like I might not have... I don't think I have that.
For the viewers at home, though, if you're watching this after the fact, the one thing that's important to remember is that this was 2 years ago. So this is something that CIG has had in their pocket for 2 years, and now we're starting to see it coming to the PU. And I don't think it's any coincidence that CIG is wrapping up work on Squadron 42 over the last year or so, and now suddenly we're getting more and more alien stuff. Forget Wicklow, and now the Railen. I'm hoping that, and almost certainly is going to be the case, is the first non-hostile AI alien we're going to get is going to be a Xi'an. Unfortunately, it means we're not going to get a Tavaran. As much as I would prefer the Tavaran, it makes more logical sense for the Tavaran, we're probably going to get the Xi'an. Because the other thing that's good.
I would have thought it was the Tavaran.
Take a look at some of the art and animation.
Well, I think it's because the Tavaran aren't in Squadron. And that's one of the few spoilers that I'm willing to give, because just to set people's expectations, because there is literally an audio line that I discovered of opposite conversation that you have on the Stanton, where it's like you can ask them about the Tavaran, and they go like, "Yeah, I've served in every ship I've ever served on in the UE Navy has had a Tavaran. The Stanton's the first one. I've never seen one." So they literally even point out the fact that there's no Tavaran.
That's kind of funny. So if you look at this is a really old video of the Xi'an architecture previs, and you can see, and it's not updating. Come on now. Work with me. We can do this together.
There you go.
Nope.
Podcast questions?
It's podcast questions. No, it's not sharing the window for some reason, but there.
No, he literally just finished setting up his computer after upgrading. So
no, this might just be Windows being Windows, to be honest. Let me try one more possible way of doing this. Nope, that's my whole file structure. Yeah, it seems to just not want to work for some reason. What I'm trying to pull up, though, is basically the same thing that you guys are seeing in...
Let's take a look at some of the art and animation.
You're saying it's called a Xi'an previs or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know what it's actually called. I downloaded it. It's years old, and yeah, I don't understand it. Literally, it just cannot. I can't get it to show me the video. It's kind of crazy. I can't get the actual program to select the window. It's just one single web page that can't be shown for whatever reason.
Hold on, I might have something for you. I think I know what it is. I have something similar, but it's not a video, it's an image.
Yeah, nothing's going to work. Forget it. Sorry, guys. Can't pull it up. This is just how tech is. But the thing I was going to show is basically, if you want to see it, you can go and watch any of the videos I've done on the Gatac Railen. I generally pull it up all the time. It shows how they've wanted the animations around these ships to work. And it's something that I think they released maybe even 2017 or 2016. And it is spot on with what we're seeing in that trailer. So clearly they're having a lot of Xi'an stuff going on. We're going to run into Xi'an, all that kind of stuff. How much of an impact do you think it'll actually have on the game, though, for people who want to get more involved in alien things? Is this like a space game where you can jump in and really get involved with aliens like Mass Effect style? Giggity. Or is this more like they're just they're just humans with a different looking skull structure?
There'll be a little bit of both. The thing is, what I was going to say as well, is that the Xi'an specifically are a interesting species because they actually have a consulate in Area 18. So there is a lore like Xi'an political headquarters there. And as a result, the likelihood of the Xi'an showing up in Star Citizen, I think, is pretty high. I do think that we do know, generally speaking, that they will probably end up being a species that we can do business with, but they're going to always have sort of a ulterior motive, because the Xi'an are very secretive, and in the process of them being very secretive, they're also very not quite. I don't know how to put this in another way, which is like upfront, I guess. Like, they're very clandestine. They think 4 moves ahead. So as a result, I am fairly confident we will see the Xi'an as mission givers at some point in game, and even as opponents or as people we can help save in game. But even if we do missions for them, they'll be very like, go do this thing, and you'll do the thing, and they'll be like, thank you, and it just won't make a lot of sense. And then, or it'll be like, go kill this person, and you find out it's a UE official after you killed them, and it's like, why did I kill a UE official? And the guy's like, don't ask questions. And
do you think it'll actually?
But it'll be things like you won't get a crime stat or something like that. It'll be stuff like that where they're doing things that don't make a lot of sense, but that's because it's like you're one cog in a bunch of different cogs doing the same thing at the same time to help them with their project, which is going to take 10 years to finish.
So how much does it actually move the needle? Like, when we talk about consequences, and you think about the different factions you're going to work with human-wise in Star Citizen, the main thing that probably would bum most people out is doing some work with one group and then not being able to do work with other groups because of that relationship. Even though the narrative folks have, for some reason, said that they don't want that to happen, I'm going to bash my head against the wall and assume it still is happening. Is that, you think they can utilize something like that when it comes to aliens? Like, you can align with whether it's Banu or Xi'an or even Tavarin, and move a little bit more away from human space or human influence, or do you think that would be too deep, taking it too far in the copium?
I think they'll eventually do that. My copium is that the comment that they made, the specific comment they made about that sort of consequences thing, was more to do with the immediate reality of what they were looking at, because I don't believe CIG, beyond big concepts, thinks really more about anything more than a year or so in advance. So they were more that conversation. For those of you who don't know, it's something that's been brought up. Me and Space Tomato bring it up a lot, because it's like the writers took a knife and then personally stabbed us in the back 17 times when they made this comment.
Sound like character assassination.
Yeah. Et tu, Brute, kind of a moment, like it got ambushed in the Senate. But that comment was specifically talking about consequences, because, and the idea was that there were they had like 4 different reputations just for Crusaders, like Crusader security, Crusader itself, Crusader logistics, and something else. So there was like 4 or 5 different paths, and at the time, if you went negative in any one of those paths, they would start shooting you immediately. So it was like a 0 to 100 in terms of its aggression to you. Like, the second you dipped -1, it was kill on sight. And they were like, well, it doesn't make a lot of sense if you screwed up one mission for you to be kill on sight for Crusader, while you're still positive with all these other aspects of Crusader. And so they were talking about like consolidating things and removing some of the negative things of it, because they wanted people to play through the loops. So my copium for that is they were talking about what they had at the moment, not the end goal.
I like that.
And one of the
I hope that's the way it was.
Well, because they're still working on Reputation version 2.
Yeah.
And it's been mentioned a couple of times.
But like,
and the story itself, the kind of answer that your question fully, is that I do believe that the aliens will have an effect on the broader storytelling, but they may not have a immediate impact right away. So like you doing stuff for the Xi'an might be connected to the Civil War storyline between the UEE in the UEE West and UEE East, the
right.
Earth and Terra, because Terra is much closer to the Xi'an than Earth is, both physically and politically and culturally. So you might end up doing some work for the Xi'an or even for Terra, which aligns you more with the Xi'an. So you get more stuff. And if you align yourself more with Terra, you get more access to the Xi'an. And if you align yourself more with Earth, you might get more access to the Devarin, since Devarin closer to Earth. So it's sort of like the aliens themselves will probably play some tangential role in the main storyline. Like they'll be connected to the main storyline in some way. And CIG has said that they want players to be able to play as aliens at some point. And they've said in the past that the reason why they, or if they're going to do an alien playable race, they're going to want more than just a skin. They want the consequences of you playing as an alien to matter. So you'll have different reactions if you're playing a Devarin, because Devarin are seen as sort of like especially by about like 30% of the population, the Devarin are effectively just outsiders and are picked upon. They're very politically persecuted against, that kind of thing. And depends on which planet you're on, they're
that's
subject to.
That's like a complicated history. You've been at war with these people. You essentially wiped out their whole species, and now they've been integrated into your community. Like that on its own is enough for many, many different missions to spawn from.
Oh, yeah. And I do think that Devarin are an easy one to have simple missions inside Star Citizen, because Devarin are so also like a Devarin from Vega is not the same Devarin from Khalif. Because Devarin from Vega has nothing to do with Devarin from Khalif, because the Devarin from Khalif is the home world, and Vega, you're completely. It's kind of like how, even in the lore today, like people in Magnus don't really care for people from Earth because they don't like Earth. People from Terra consider themselves better than people from Earth. People from Croshaw see themselves as sort of rugged pioneers, the descendants of rugged pioneers who tamed the world, tamed the land, whereas people from Redder are all like intellectuals, and it's where they built their universities and stuff like that. So it'll be the same thing with Devarin. But as a result, eventually they're going to have to make an actual deep, consequential storyline for you choosing to be a Xi'an. So
yeah. Sorry, I keep losing my camera, folks. It's a new setup. Still trying to figure out what's going on with it. That is, it's almost, there's a lot of story opportunities there. Mm-hmm. And the idea of there being some actual consequence would be cool. I would love to have like a sort of dilemma fighting for like a Tevarin gang and making stuff better for them and for the group, but also you're kind of towing the line with the law and figuring out how to keep taking on those missions without getting in too much trouble. They could do so much with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, they could do a lot more. There's a lot of interesting storytelling, and it's copium, but I keep telling myself that the reason why we don't see a lot of that stuff now is because they don't have Reputation version 2. And Reputation version 2 is designed specifically to be able to handle stuff like that a little bit more succinctly. Because the biggest problem they had was too many points of reputation. When every company had multiple subsets of those companies, it became a little insane. So they wanted the larger context of the company. So like they did the Transport Guild and the Mercenaries Guild and those sorts of things. That to be the overarching reputation you work with, while you have individual reputation with these different groups, which specifically connect to those larger overall overarching groups.
Yeah.
So
that's a much better interpretation of it. I do wish, like, and this is probably it would be a never-ending spiral for them to just respond to our questions that are brought on by what they say at Star Citizen Live, but it's kind of difficult when obviously they can get on camera and say things to clarify and answer questions for us, and we appreciate that. But then when those answers bring up new questions, I'm not going to say that they should spend more time coming out and answering those questions, because then that brings up more questions. But it's also, I don't know, how do you deal with the uncertainty of things when they might say something that they don't necessarily mean, but then they don't clarify what they did mean?
Mostly that they just don't have an idea yet. Like they have a basic idea, and then they just don't want to clarify because they don't want to be like, oh yeah, this is exactly how it works, and then that to change. So, that's my guess is it's more, the way I deal with it is just more of a they don't 100% know, and because CIG doesn't like to talk about things they don't 100% know about, they won't say anything. So
I don't like that. Classic CIG. Though.
I know.
All right, let's talk about the Gatac Railen, or the Gatac Railen. Sorry, because this is honestly, in my opinion, this is a phenomenal addition to the game. I was very excited for it before it came out. Now that it's out, I'm actually pretty. I'm impressed. I think they did a great job of making this work. Hold on, let me see if I can. There we go. I am surprised that they made this work in a similar size format to what was originally pitched from the concept and to now, with double the cargo at 640 SCU. What are your thoughts on the delivery of this ship?
That's good. I like that still keeps the Gatac styling. It looks like almost exactly like the concept image. It's a lot of people were confused, just like, why is it so fancy on the inside? And it's like, because it's Xi'an. Like that's sort of their thing. Like they have, like, the inside of the Sulin is similar. It's like it's very dark, but it's got that similar sort of like very fancy interior. Yeah, it just in general it feels very much like CIG's finally got this design style for what a Gatac or Xi'an ship should look like.
Yeah.
And they're really flexing that now.
It's also, I think Gatac as a company in Xi'an culture is considered like the bleeding edge. Like, this is the most fancy company in Xi'an ship manufacturing.
Mm-hmm. It's the RSI of the Xi'an is what it is. It's the oldest, most respected, most interesting group. There's actually, I'm gonna probably do a video on it before it comes out. So hopefully this next week or so, just to kind of talk about it. But the Railen actually has an interesting background in that I have a theory based off of the lore that we know about Gatac and its connection with Misk. The Railen is quite literally the Xi'an whole series. Like, not just like it's based. No. This is Xi'an designing a ship to compete with the whole series by legally taking the design concepts, the actual engineering blueprints of the whole series, and then using that to create a ship that would compete with the whole series. Because
really,
part of the technology exchange that Misk gave its that Mix got its the like engine designs and engine technologies from the Xi'an was that exchange was two ways. It wasn't just the Misk got cool stuff. It was that the Misk got cool stuff and they gave the Xi'an something. And what they gave the Xi'an was the right to produce their own whole series of ships inside Xi'an space, which included the basically engineering blueprints for the whole series. All of them. And it's like, well, why would, because they did this discussion with Aopoa. Anyone who knows anything about the Xi'an culture, Aopoa doesn't do anything with cargo. It's illegal for them to do any cargo ship because only Gatac has the ability to do cargo. That is its fundamental right because of the family, the Gatac family that runs Gatac. They
sided with the right people.
They sided with right people at the very beginning of the Empire, and so they got like a lifetime, like a forever contract or forever appointment to being able to make industrial ships. So they make all the industrial ships of the Xi'an Empire. So Aopoa would not risk making an industrial ship because they would get destroyed if that was the case. They would lose their title and all those sorts of things.
Right.
So why would Aopoa make this deal? Well, because Aopoa wasn't working on their own behalf. They were almost certainly working on behalf of Gatac. Gatac was probably giving them something in return because Aopoa was the person who was talking to Misk. So basically, Gatac, in theory, went to Aopoa, said, you have relations with these humans because they had been doing, the Sentuk Yai had been sold to human markets for a while. So they sent that out. And when they sent that out, they sent out the invitation for Misk. They wanted Misk to specifically so they could get the whole series plans. And again, remember, the Xi'an thinking like 4 steps ahead of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So what was likely happening was Gatac was like, human market is going to be big. We're having better relations with humans. So if we're going to have better relations with humans, we probably want to build something that both us and humans can use so that we can incorporate some of their ideas into our own designs. And so they got the whole series of ships, designs, plans, and instead of building a whole series inside the Xi'an Empire, they just used those plans to build the Railen. So the Railen is a quite literal competitor to the whole series, both in its design and its purpose, using the official blueprints of the whole series to copy it, because they legally were able to get at a hold of these blueprints through Aopoa.
See, now I love a little bit of lore, and I think that genuinely will matter as long as they stick to it. You know, as long as like they we don't see some kind of random Aopoa cargo ship come out in 6 years that makes this like this. I really hope that this stays as a fundamental part of Star Citizen, that you can kind of narrow down why certain alien ships are made the way they are. But as you say, this is a competitor to something like the Misk series. There are also a couple other ships I think this matches up quite nicely against. I actually have a little hangar size table here to show kind of how the Railen compares to some other ships. And you can see now the hangar size is wrong. This is for landing pads. This is not for hangars. Hangars are also limited by their height. But when it comes to landing pads out in like planetary areas and on moons and stuff, I do think that the Railen has a really, really good advantage in that it can compact some of that space up into a tighter spot than something like the Hull B. But obviously there's still some reasons to have the whole series. So how do you think this does compare to some of its other competitors?
I think the one big problem that the Railen has is that because of the verticality of the Xi'an, it creates a big pancake. So like its cross section is much easier to target and hit than say a Hull B, because the Hull B you have to get it lengthwise, and even then it's like a skinny stick. It's a lot less defendable than a whole series of ships is, at least the whole B. And like the Caterpillar is, again, just a stick, but it's all protected.
Yeah.
And they even said in the video with the Railen that they have the protected cargo status, where they have these things that makes it difficult for them to fall off, which means that they intend for cargo to be able to be literally shot off the grids on exterior cargo grids.
Yep.
Which we haven't seen yet. So that the protection right there. So I think it serves as sort of a middle ground between a whole series and a Caterpillar. Its advantage is that it's got really good interiors. It's got ease of loading and unloading for cargo. Pretty simple. It has a lot of firepower for both pilot control and its turrets. But it's probably going to be less maneuverable than other ships of its class and more vulnerable to attack, which is why it has to have higher damage. Because those big shields that it has aren't just shields; those are also engines. So when one of those like X features gets blown apart, you lose an engine. So you're going to lose maneuverability.
Yeah.
So
do you think that when people use this ship, they're actually going to feel like they're in an alien ship or just a more fancy human ship?
I mean, the one thing that immediately popped to my mind when I saw all the animations of them moving was like, this is Forerunner. This looks like what you see in Forerunner facilities in Halo.
I'm so glad I wasn't the one to say it.
It looks like a combination, especially because of the purple pinks of Covenant and Forerunner stuff.
Yeah,
which seems to be what CIG is sort of going with in terms of the Xi'an styling, is that it's kind of Forerunner-esque.
It's like an
but
ancient future.
Yeah, ancient future.
Yeah,
like the fact that it talked about how like the ships aren't actually built as much as they're grown. So like you take like a crystal, like you take a crystal and you would grow it in a mold, and then that would be like in this argument, in this situation, it would be like that would be like the engine, or that you'd grow the engine using natural materials, not necessarily like using like stone, like using stone to grow it rather than mining and then processing it and then like crafting it.
You just birth a quantum drive.
Yeah. You like put your terrarium out and out sprouts some guns.
Yay!
Kind of thing. Congratulations! It's an M5A.
Yay! New Omniskis popping out. So excited.
My harvest of missiles is coming in great this year, I do say.
It certainly looks alien. I think that the atmosphere and the vibe definitely get it. But as far as like somebody who wants a different experience, does this actually do anything, in your opinion?
I think it gives you a different vibe, but I don't know if it'll give you a different experience. I think the one thing you'll always have is that CIG is probably not going to differentiate the experience overall too much, simply because you don't want to make the gameplay so different that players are completely alienated by them. So,
pun intended.
Like, if you fly a Tavaran Talon, it doesn't really feel that different from a Gladius.
Right.
But it looks cooler. And when you fly a Blade or a Glaive, it doesn't feel that much different from, say, a Hornet or like a Saber. But it feels different. It looks different. The vibe is different. But the actual flight isn't really that different.
You gonna pick one up?
No.
How about in-game eventually?
Maybe in-game eventually.
Not much of a smuggler ship, huh?
Nah, not really. It's too big and has too much. Doesn't have any kind of like interior spaces. I also already own a Banu Merchantman, so like there's no real reason to have a Banu Merchantman and a Railen, because the Banu Merchantman is like a Railen on steroids in terms of its size. Yes, I know. I mentioned the Banu Merchantman, which is never coming out. The Banu Merchantman.
Sorry, y'all. Everybody crying in the listening to this right now. Well, let's talk about then the more of the complication. I guess I'm already asking you about how much of a difference the alien structure makes, but what I'm wondering is like, is this all just kind of lore? Is the Gatac Railen the kind of ship that you feel like they are releasing because they need more cargo ships, or is they just kind of trying to take off more alien ships to get into the game?
I think they want to diversify their ships. I think they're trying to get people to understand that the universe that they're creating is not just humanity. It's or just humanity, the Bandul. It's all these different other species, and they're trying to demonstrate that through honing in on the construction concepts of each race, because they want to make the alien races feel uniquely alien. And the Xi'an, this is probably the least alien of the alien ships with like the Railen, because it's like a human cargo ship. And like I said, I think that it's because the reason why that is because it's specifically built for the human market, or built as a human and Xi'an market.
Yeah, that's true.
But also it's designed off the whole B, but the whole series. It's really just a whole series rip knockoff. So it has more human elements than otherwise you would normally have. But we know that they want really vertical ships for the Xi'an, larger ships. We've already seen that in their fighters, that they're very vertical and expressive and such. So I think it's more about building out the base, not just for lore, but also for dynamic storytelling. My hope is that eventually these ships will feel different to fight against, or to be faced up against, compared to what we have now. Kind of like how the Vandul ships are sort of different in terms of how you fight against them now versus non-Vandul ships. Like the Glaive, the Blade, the heavier ships as well. They all feel a little bit different, but I don't think it's quite there yet. We don't see the aggression in it yet, but no video.
Sorry, just turning the camera back on. Yeah, that's a good point though. Trying to make them feel different is pretty important, because it's actually, you make a really good point. As much as everybody hates Wicklow, players will remember that Banu are traders, and that they want stuff and they want to trade stuff. They will remember that the Vandul tend to stick to Nyx and like to attack you, and they'll remember with the Xi'an at least that they make some really fancy stuff. Like, they are starting to make some very distinct personalities around these races.
Yeah, and that's the whole shtick, and it's easier to do that with cargo ships with the stuff we have now in game. This is the easiest way to do those differentiations, because they do not have the full rigging or even a model, I'm guessing, for Tavaran. They probably don't have a full motion rig for the Xi'an. They only have the head and torso of a Banu, and the Vandul they're trying to keep under wraps until Squadron 42. So given all those limitations, the ships is what they have to be able to express those differences.
Yeah, at least it's not just like alien language riddles outside of the game anymore. Speaking of which, it's genuinely useful to know the lore of these aliens going forward, right? Learning their languages, understanding what aliens like, what certain types of things. How far do you think that will take somebody when they're doing like random quests, or just like meeting socially with mission givers or giving gifts and stuff? is this something that's going to make a real difference to people who are playing the game? Like, even if they have an alien language cheat sheet on the side or something?
Possibly. I mean, because CIG seems to love their puzzles. If you look at Squad 42, from what we've seen from the various, like, Hell the Line and other portions of, like, previews, they love their physics puzzles and other things like that. I could easily see CIG doing a situation where, like, Xi'an has asked you to investigate a wreck of a Xi'an ship, and you get on that ship and you walk around, and there's a section that has Xi'an lettering, and you don't know what it is. You just walk by it. But if you know Xi'an, you look at it, you go, that means storage container, and you can crack it open and look through what it is and see, oh yeah, this is like a loot room, or something to that effect, where, you know, or like, no, that means reactor room, or danger, radiation leak. So you don't open the door and immediately get hit in the face with a huge amount of radiation. I could see some elements of that. I don't know. I think it would be very difficult to design in a fair way where you'd have somebody who understands the language can, like, not just get an advantage, but get an entirely different story. Because it would be cool to be able to do things like pick up a tablet off of this Xi'an ship, and it explains, like, all of this messed up stuff they're doing, and be able to approach your mission giver and be like, what's all this messed up stuff you're doing? Yeah, I read Xi'an. You know,
Oops.
but you can't, that's hard to do unless you have, like, a mechanic where it knows you know Xi'an, which if you're doing that out of game, then they don't know.
Yeah. It's there's the No Man's Sky method where you kind of learn stuff for your own character's knowledge, and then there's the fact that you as a player could know stuff. But like you said, if you're walking by a blue orb and there's words above it that say, this is a magical ornament that will bless your ship, you're much more likely to pick it up than, you know, if you're walking by and you don't know the language, you might see that and be like, that looks like an explosive, let me avoid that. Like, those kinds of little things I would love to see.
Yeah.
All right. We know that there is another ship coming from Gatac for Alien Week. What do you think it's going to be?
It's one of two things. Either it is a Railen variant that is has salvage beams, or it's what Jared mentioned as a snub ship that was inspired by 2001: Space Odyssey, a scene from 2001: Space Odyssey, and a lot of people are pointing out that the Railen itself, its turrets, look an awful lot like the pods from 2001: Space Odyssey. The famous open the pod bay doors, Hal. You know, where it's, you know, the astronaut, I think it's Dave is in the exterior. He's outside of the ship in this pod, and he doesn't have his helmet, and he's like, I need to get back in, and he can't. So he has to go EVA without a helmet and nearly dies, kind of thing. I think it was without a helmet. I remember he was without a helmet in the conversation. But that pod looks an awful lot, very similar to the gun turrets on the Railen. So people are thinking possibly that those turrets are also stub ships. But
oh boy, yeah,
I think it's more likely that I don't. He had a helmet on. Okay, Maverick showing a picture of no, that's him picking up the buddy who got. I don't remember. No. I do think it's more than likely a salvage variant. So,
okay.
And as we've seen, like the Hermes versus the Apollo kind of thing.
You think
not necessarily a variant, but a slight tweak.
But you think it'll use the Railen chassis?
Yeah, I think it'd be the Railen chassis, and they'd replace the cargo area with like a salvage cargo.
Huh.
Like a salvage.
That would be
section.
How do you feel about alien variants?
I'm the same as I feel about other variants. Generally speaking, I don't like what they do with what CIG is doing with this. Like, we're gonna make a ship and then we're gonna slightly tweak the ship, so we can make two ships out of one ship. Yeah, the Tiburon versus the Hammerhead, the Hermes versus the Apollo, that kind of thing. Because to me, it always feels like an excuse to sell skins, to sell the same ship twice and sell separate skins so that they have people have to spend more money.
Mm-hmm.
I get the reason why they do it though, because it's just sort of like we have all this assets, we just need to use these assets properly. Like, we actually need to like just do. We can just reuse what we have, use every part of the Buffalo, but it comes across sometimes as kind of lazy. And in terms of lore reasons, there's just no reason why the Xi'an wouldn't create a variant of the Railen for salvage, because why not?
Yeah, I guess that's the one thing is.
At the same time, it's like, really?
Yeah,
come on, guys.
For me, it's like the alien ships feel a lot more unique, so seeing a variant of them feels more significant than seeing one of a human ship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely more significance. It shows that would definitely show that CID is more interested in doing more ships that are not just what they've already sold.
Variants, yeah, which would be great to see, but also probably a lot of work. Let's talk about the actual release, though, of the Railen, and I guess of this mysterious alien ship. These are both going to be coming out with the next update coming to Star Citizen Alpha 4.8.2, and that's like, I mean, that probably is going to happen next week, considering the Railen is supposed to release with it. So now this could feel like an update that's being made just to reach a sale. The ship itself, maybe, I mean, even yourself, you didn't think it was going to make it by Alien Week earlier this year because of the timing, and we see that it only just reached its Lot Zero and final art reviews this month, and now it's releasing straight into the live game, seemingly without a PTU cycle. Tell me all of the thoughts swirling through your head with these complications.
It's gonna be broken. It's gonna be, the lighting is gonna not work. It's the Ironclad all over again. I would be amazed if it wasn't the Ironclad all over again. I just do not expect it to be super functional as a ship when it first comes out, simply because it is sort of rushed. This definitely seems like it's rushed. So.
Yeah. Does it feel like it's going to be the same, though, considering it's not dealing with like some kind of new technology like the command module? Or you just
Possibly.
think it's...
The problem is that it is still using new technology, because it's like the elevator systems they have is different. The transformations are different. Like, all of that stuff is going to be a little different. So yeah,
you don't have high hopes.
I always keep my expectations low, because I mean, even think about the Hermes. The Hermes came out and had problems, and it was just they had already released the Apollo, and it was like it's just the Apollo, but it's cargo thing, and it was having issues when it came out. It's when CIG decides not to test in PTU for any of these ships, I'm going, yeah, it's going to be problematic.
Yeah.
It's going to have problems.
Yeah, and it's becoming a trend that, like, they don't want this to define the company, right? You guys make amazing ships. It is not yet stuck in people's minds that every ship you release is broken when it comes out, but they're building that reputation actively.
Mm-hmm. The Ironclad was uniquely a problem because it was the thing that everyone was looking forward to, and it was released broken.
Sure, but nobody was looking forward to the Moth, and that thing had people livid for a week at least.
Yeah, when it came out, it was broken, and the Moth is just a variant of the mole. Like, it's good.
It's just freaking salvage beams. Like these things. These are not things that players expect to be broken. I mean, it's the most basic functionality. Does the ship travel through quantum travel? Can it salvage stuff as a salvage ship? And I hate to see them get to the point where like the literal best thing that they can do in this game, which is design ships, is now tainted by the fact that they're just never working.
I will say that I am not a doomer. I know a lot of people are. They're like, oh, this is all tech debt, and CIG is just the spaghetti code is unwinding, and the proof that Star Citizen is dying because it's losing everything. And my response to that is mostly just no. It's CIG is prioritizing releases over the game. It's more important that CIG gets something out because they got to sell a ship than it is that the game functions. And they'll fix it afterwards, is their mentality. And that is a problem because it does give them a reputation of being slot merchants. And if Sage is not careful, that is going to be the reputation by the end of the year. Like everyone's going to make those jokes in November if they continue this path.
Yeah.
Where when IE comes out, it's like, are you ready for the rush patch that's rushed out so that they can sell you new ships that don't work?
That will be the Nix 1 patch, and they'll drop it with the sale because it'll be the most hype thing they can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
I hope that they can find a way to slow things down. It's funny because even last year, towards the end of the year, they said they were like, this year's release cadence was too much, and then they're doing it a little bit less this year, but they're still finding ways to just like push more work in there. And clearly, Squadron's given them a lot of work. So I hope that it does like they can figure out how this is going to work by the end of the year.
I'm open too, but we'll see. You know, I think it requires CIG to rethink this current the patch always goes mentality, and return to if it's not ready to go, pull it out.
Agreed. Let's talk about gosh, I wanted to ask you actually about the main story and how you thought, this is jumping a little bit back to what we were talking about before with the aliens and the main storyline, but I forgot to ask you about the Kr'Thak. This is, we've got the Vandul, we've got the Xi'an, the Banu, and then the Tavaran. These are like the four races that everybody is generally aware of. We know they're going to be in the game. We've seen ships and stuff from them, but the Kr'Thak are still a pretty big question mark. They don't get talked about too much. We know that they're at least at war with the Xi'an. Do you think that they're going to end up becoming a bigger part of the story, or that we might see their ships at any point?
Oh yeah, 100% we will. It's going to happen at some point. It's just not going to happen right away. The big thing is that the Kr'Thak, for those of you who don't know, generally speaking, the Kr'Thak are this ancient foe of the Xi'an. They have been fighting what's known as the Spirit Wars for thousands of years with this race. And at one point, the Kr'Thak quite literally assassinated the entire, not royal family, but royal lineage, down to the last living descendant who had any royal blood of the Xi'an Empire, Imperial Empire. In the same nanosecond, they managed to strike and kill every single member of the family at the exact same time everywhere in the Xi'an Empire.
Which is terrifying.
Which is terrifying. That sort of level of coordination and strategic acumen is like that's not possible. Even with our modern technology today, with like, you couldn't find and kill every single person that efficiently. And obviously it's science fiction, but the point being is like, even in this universe of Star Citizen, that is terrifying. That capability is insane. It is absolutely insane to be able to do stuff like that. So the Kr'Thak are the Xi'an fear them a lot, because effectively the Xi'an, as far as we can tell, based off of the limited knowledge we have, the Xi'an discovered the Kr'Thak and started the war, and proceeded to lose the war, and they are losing the war.
Yikes.
They currently have a sort of a peace treaty, or not a peace treaty, a ceasefire with them, but the wars are still going on in theory. So the reason why they even discovered the Vandul, the Tavaran, the Banu, and humanity is because of the Kr'Thak. Once they ran into the Kr'Thak scared them so much that once they got their stuff together after that assassination, the new family, which is the current family in charge, which I believe is like the grandparents of the current emperor, was the first emperor of this lineage, the Kr'Thak lineage. They said, we're not going anywhere near Kr'Thak space. No more in that general direction of space. You're not. I don't care if it's near a border. We're not exploring. We're not going anywhere in that direction. We have to go the opposite direction. And so they went the opposite direction, which put them in the direct path towards the species of the Star Citizen universe. So
which are easier to deal with, it seems.
Well, yeah, and they just traded one insane enemy for a bunch of insane enemies, or insane possible enemies. I always like to point out that the Xi'an are so advanced, but it'd be kind of like if you built a home and suddenly your next door neighbor, and the plot of like where your next door is, a ant colony started to show up. At first you're like, okay, well, that's annoying, but it's not my problem. And then over the course of 2 years, you watch as the ants build a giant fortress and start developing a nuclear bomb. You start going,
ants over there splitting atoms.
Yeah, and you're like, I've got a problem. and they're starting to shout at you from on top of their giant parapets, like, we're gonna murder you and your whole family, and like start throwing like leaves at you. But you're like, man, these guys are building an atomic bomb and they already hate me. This is a concerning factor. That's kind of the Xi'an's relationship with humanity. It's a classic 40K example. It's like, to Xi'an, the humans are just like apes, but if a 30-ton gorilla busts through your fucking window waving a shotgun, you would probably piss your pants, because it's a gorilla, but it's gonna kill. It can still rip you piece to piece. But in this case, humanity was very underdeveloped compared to them, and over the last couple of 100 years, which is within the lifetime of one Xi'an, they went from being barely, functioning weaponry and space travel to near peer with Xi'an technology, which scares them dramatically, but not as much as the Kr'Thak.
Yeah, and I mean, I think like there is enough just in this little corner of Star Citizen's lore to base the entire story, campaign stories and MMOs off of, just like this sort of power struggle between these two species, one having caught up to the other as an underdog, both being stuck in a sort of cold civil war, dealing with their own issues internally, and also having their own separate enemies that they're fighting with. Like, that on its own is a super interesting story. And we're not even getting to the whole Terra versus Earth actual main story of Star Citizen. There's just a lot of potential for different ways for it to go. Yeah.
It's they really have built a universe that is super easy for them to slot anything they want into. And I think that's intentional. Aaron Roberts at one point was interviewed about what the plan was going forward for Star Citizen and Squadron 42. And he said specifically that he planned on doing what he did at Lego, with the Lego games. Not at Lego, but with the Lego games when he was running the studio that was doing the Lego games. And which is take the base technology that you build for Squadron and then use that technology to produce a new single player experience every 2 years. So you can reuse assets, you can reuse sets, you can use a lot of different aspects, and then simply get new voice actors. So
yeah, it's kind of like the whole release something with new features and then just release subsequent patches after that have content that uses those features. It's a good model.
Mm-hmm. It worked for them when they're doing Lego, and it's the reason why they were able to pump out Lego like Batman and then Indiana Jones and Lego Lord of the Rings, and it's like they're just like doing it like every 2 years they're dropping one of those new ones, and it was simply just a slight evolution. Each one was a slight evolution on the other one, but a lot of them were just reskins of what they already had, so it wasn't a huge amount of work.
Yeah, man, it's crazy how much story potential there is to allow them to do that and to keep it ongoing too. I really, really hope that it focuses on making players make choices, like which factions or which sides they want to pick in conflicts, and letting us deal with those situations. Like, it's very cool, in my opinion, that we've had these events that have gone on, like the resource rush, let's say. Yeah. And you just permanently have to say, this is the company that I worked with. I want more of that. I know that a lot of people don't like that, especially in the alpha phase, and I'm willing to hear that out. Alpha phase, maybe not so much, but when the game launches, having that like storyline where you can just take part in these things and see the way that the actual story develops in the MMO would be amazing. And it doesn't feel like it's gonna. Go ahead.
It's like choose a side and stick with it. You're forced to stick with them.
Yeah,
know?
And it doesn't feel like it's going to be just Earth and Terra. It feels like there's a lot of potential for the future of Star Citizen storylines.
Yeah, there's a huge amount. It really comes down to technology and the ability that CIG has to tell the stories. It's not. I don't think it's a situation where CIG can't tell the stories. It's just more of a, can CIG build the technology and tools to do the things they want to do. The hopium in me goes, they can. It's just a matter of time. But the pessimist in me says CIG doesn't want to, because they're afraid of telling a story that might ruffle feathers. You know,
God,
taking the wrong lessons from the Frontier Fighters is the best way of putting it.
If there's anything we've learned in the last 10 years, it is that no matter how many feathers you ruffle, there will always be others to butter up. Like, you just got to find the audience.
Yeah, there's an audience, and I think there's a huge amount of people like you and I who want that consequences, the story-driven consequence. And I feel like that would actually attract more people to the game than being like, oh well, I don't want to have chosen the wrong choice. It's like, there's no wrong choices. It's a sandbox game. You pick your choice, and that's just who you deal with.
As long as there are ways to recover your gameplay style, like to bounce back, you know, to make a difference. If you made that mistake and it's not just a fail state, it's like, oh well, you just opened up another mission that you have to do to get back to where you were, something like that.
Yeah, and it just means that you now have to do a bunch of work to lose that reputation, to be able to go back to neutral and go back to doing something different. You know. Yeah.
How about in terms of specific star systems or storylines that come from some of the alien species in the game? Are there any that you would really like to see come to Star Citizen?
My favorite one is, of course, my theorized third Tavaran War. I'm also interested in the Xi'an Civil War, which might break out. For those of you who don't know, the Xi'an are in a situation where the last Kr'Thak is alive. The Emperor is extremely old. He was born when humanity first made contact with the Xi'an, on the day of first contact with the Xi'an. So that was in 2520. So he is well over 400 years old, approaching the age where he has no children. He cannot have children. He has no children at all. And he's likely to step down or die in the next couple of years. Well,
okay. I think you're getting people a little bit with the... Hold on, folks. He's being a little disingenuous here, okay? You know what they say? 430 is the new 50. And you shouldn't sell yourself short just because you got a couple extra years on you, all right? Let the man have a vote, at least. Man. Turtle.
He's likely to retire, at the very least, is what's going to happen. And the problem is that he has no heir. And if there's no heir, that means they have to have a new dynasty. And there is no plans internally in the Xi'an as to how to deal with his abdication or his death. They don't know what to do because it's all based on genetic markings they don't have any more genetic markings for. And it's like they kind of faked Kray's genetic markings to get them into the power in the first place, so that they could legally get the imperator or the emperor to be put in there. So the question is, what's going to happen? And almost certainly, it's humanity is going to stick its nose into it because
we love that.
Because we think about it, it's the Xi'an. They're like the biggest rival we have next to the Vanduul, and at least the Xi'an have actual rules and laws and other things like that. So you can easily go into those systems and influence them in some way.
Hell yeah, dude. Some classic CIA operative stuff. Love it.
Oni from Halo, I can't remember what it was in Mass Effect, but like the like black section 31, I think, from Star Trek, the
good old fashioned Pax Americana.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Classic Pax Americana, yeah.
So that is actually a really exciting. See, man, this is what I'm saying. That could be the main storyline of the whole thing. Like, you get to have a part in the collapse or the restoration of the Xi'an Empire. Come on.
You get to influence who gets to be in charge. And like, that would be a great storyline, because you could have players choose which side you're gonna back.
Yeah.
Are you gonna back this family or this family?
It's
also
good because that's not even like mandatory. Like, you could play Star Citizen and take part in that storyline, and it would not at all affect, kind of what they were talking about. Like, the starting location isn't going to have some sort of change in their reputation of you, because you're doing all this in the Xi'an space. Like, you can. Yeah. It almost makes sense as a really good like DLC.
Yeah. It could easily be a DLC for what CIG is planning on in the near future, in the future beyond 1.0. I'm also looking forward to the third Devarin War, because there's definitely a conflict between the Devarin who live outside the UEE and the Devarin who live inside the UEE. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Devarin outside the UEE coalesce under a new warlord to then try to retake their homeworld. And almost certainly, if that was to be the case, the people who would stop them would be the Devarin inside the UEE. Because it's a long explanation. I'll try to simplify it a little bit, which is effectively the Devarin culture has this aspect where once you have been conquered by an opposing enemy, it is your duty to assimilate into that culture of that enemy. And vice versa, if you conquer an enemy, it is your duty to protect and absorb your enemy's people, because they are now your people and your responsibility. So to the Devarin, inside the UEE, their argument is we lost twice. And if we want to abide by our own religious teachings, our own cultural teachings, we need to start adapting. We can't just keep rebelling against the UEE. We lost. We have to deal with that fact. Mm-hmm. And part of that fact is we're going to have to become UEE citizens. We're going to have to become model UEE residents. And so there's a push for as many Devarin as possible to join the military, so that they can get citizenship, so they can have an outsized effect on elections, because they want to have as many, if not all, the adult population of the Devarin to be voting citizens. That way, they would have much more protections, because they would be a voting bloc that all three parties would have to negotiate with to get everything done.
Yeah, politics.
The politics, but. So to Devarin inside the UEE, the Devarin from outside the UEE are a threat to their new culture. So it's our job to defend against these invaders. And even though these invaders are you know, cousins, siblings, you know, in terms of culture, they're our enemy. And so that would be another fascinating one, because it would be likely UE is to stretch too thin with the Devaran, with the Vanduul Wars to deal with the incursion of the Devaran. And so you have to choose between helping the incursion of the Devaran warlord or defending Khalif with the Devaran who are loyal to the UE. So
That's another good one. It feels like almost, I mean, that's the Tevarin and the Xi'an. Very clear main stories that we can link into there. Is there anything going on with the Banu that feels similar?
The secret of the Banu, the origins of the Banu. We don't know where they came from. We have an idea, but they have insane technologies which we don't know that comes from, like the tachyon cannon that they have, the Singes. We don't know where they got that, and they probably didn't invent it themselves. So, like, why? Because for those who don't know, the Banu don't keep history. They don't have any records. So the Banu don't know and don't care where they came from. And
that's true, huh? They like don't keep written history. They just don't. They don't give a shit about what happened before. They're like, we're here.
If new is better, so do new. You know, if it's new and better, then do new. Why bother about the old? And they live such short lives that, you know, they live like 50 years or so, 50, 60 years. So, and the average human life is in the hundreds. So humans have double the lifespan of the Banu. So to a human, you know, 2-3 generations of a Banu will be born and die before a human dies. So like that, their history is lost in real time. The only people who care about Banu history are humanity. And we are the ones who are actually researching into it. So yeah, there could be like an interesting. We could look into some more information. Like, for instance, there's a Banu. One of the Banu systems is clear across human space. And initially, there's a question: is like, why is there one Banu system that's like near the Xi'an space, and all the rest of them are like further away, more towards Vanduul space? Like, literally, it's like, if you look at the map, it's like human space here, Banu colony, Banu thing down here, rest of Banu space down here. It's like, well, how did they get all the way up there? And they asked the writers, is this just a mistake? And the writers were like, no, this is not a mistake.
But they haven't explained it yet.
They don't want to explain it because they want to explain it in game. They want us to discover why that's the case in game. So, and that's the one, that one that's way up here is the famous Banu flotilla. There's a famous big flotilla that's up that area. So
okay, that should be easy to model in game.
Well, hopefully they have flotillas everywhere, because that's a typical Banu merchant tactic. It's just to rope ships together. So
are the Banu like actually Quarians or what?
Yeah, kind of. They live on planets, but they love to basically rope all their ships together to create a giant market that you can walk between. So like merchantmen sort of connect together.
I'm here for it. That would have been cool if they had explained the spider is getting its idea from that.
Well, we do know the Reef is like that, the Keltu Reef.
Okay.
Which I call it Reef because it's chai tea. Keltu is Banu for reef. So
okay.
So it's called Keltu Reef, or like kind of like chai tea, which chai really just means tea. So it's reef, which is a human who was sold into slavery into the Banu society. For those of you who don't know, Banu have slavery. It's more like indentured servitude. Where you spend, once you've been contracted out, you're there for 20 years, and then they let you go once your contract is up. But you can't leave until the contract is up. So it's slavery by any other name, but they're at least nicer to you than a typical slaver might be.
Friendly slaves.
Well, like a lot of human children end up getting sold to the Banu, and a lot of the human children who get sold to the Banu are from poor families. So it's like a poor family or a family with like gambling debts and stuff like that. And almost always in those stories of a human from a poor family getting sold to the Banu, they end up at a higher social status when they leave their time with the Banu, because the Banu actually like give them education, give them training, give them practice, give them a wage. And so this woman who was sold to the Banu at a young age came out of the Banu Suli with with knowledge of trade and negotiations. She became a trader, and she passed through Hadrian all the time and saw all of these derelict space stations that were built left over from when Hadrian was a main defense line against the Xi'an. And so she bought all these derelict stations and then towed them together in space and created a brand new flotilla out of these stations and called it. And the way it was designed and the way it looked, she said it reminded her of the reefs back on her own original homeworld, and so she named it Keltu, which is the Banu word for reef. You actually can see Keltu because if you look at the whole A, so I'll pull it up here. The whole A promo video image actually has Keltu in the background.
The whole A promo video.
Not promo video, promo image.
Okay. Man, this is yet another brilliant opportunity for a story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like the moral dilemma, save the children mission where you're like, I could see this fitting right into Mass Effect. Like you do this whole thing, you save the kids, you get to the end of the mission, and then you are confronted by NPCs who are like, why did you do that? We were building an amazing future for our kids. I went through this and I loved it. And you're just like, well, I mean, sure, but also, yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very easy opportunity for that.
See if I can find it. I think it's this one. Yeah, that's I think that's, if you can see there on my screen.
Let's see, I could probably, oh yeah.
That's I don't think that's the right one though.
And the thing you were saying, like the space station she made was in the background of the promo art?
Yeah, it's in one of the promo art pieces.
Huh.
For the whole series. It's like when the whole A first came out.
Well,
I'll have to find it again.
Yeah, I'm missing all of my stuff, so I can't pull that up.
I'll pull it up and put it in there as well.
That's cool, though. I didn't know that. So, I think that's actually a pretty interesting part of Star Citizen is that a lot of the things that they use for the background, from the concept art to some of the trailers to even the arena commander maps, are from other parts of the game that may or may not end up being in the game, but ultimately,
yeah,
they at least introduce people to stuff that might be upcoming soon. Like the Ellis system is a pretty, I think that's going to be an early addition to the game after 1.0. And it's looking like that is, and that's where all like the racing tracks are. I love that.
That's Keltu.
Oh, dude, I don't know if I've ever seen that picture.
Yeah, it's from you see the whole series right here. It's from a whole series promo. That's specifically seen as shown as Keltu. So that's and it's a concept image, so it's probably going to change a little bit from that. But the idea is that it's sort of a space stations welded together. So it looks less like a modern space station that we see in game, and more like a reef. So is the idea. It's like a coral reef.
Inspired by the Banu. So do you think there's going to be some, like when it comes to these sort of things that are connected in the background in the lore, how often do you think the game or CIG themselves will make it obvious to players and make it an actual thing that players can learn and get involved in, as opposed to something that you just go look up on a wiki and say, oh, that's cool?
Especially with this, I think they'll do a very detailed job, because the only reason why this is even written was because somebody at CIG said, that's a cool idea. I want to do a cool space station that's like a bunch of space stations welded together. And so the lore team had to write up a reason for that to exist. So I think that they'll definitely do a good job of like actually pulling up, kind of connecting this to make people obviously know that this is Banu inspired. Put a little Banu technology here and there, kind of like what we see with the spires around Wicklow's stations and such. And the cool thing about Hadrian, what I just showed you, is that there's a high likelihood that Hadrian is one of, if not the first system to release after 1.0.
And this is Hadrian
this is where Keltu is. Yeah, and the reason why is because Hadrian has a jump point from Terra to Hadrian, and from Hadrian to Castra. So it completely bypasses Pyro and Nyx if you want to try to travel. So you could go from Stanton to Terra to Hadrian to Castra. So it allows for a safe route around all of the chaotic systems if you wanted to do that.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's interesting.
And it's also a Xi'an border system. So if you wanted to add more Xi'an interactions between humans and Xi'an, that would be a perfect place to start having those as well. Because it's a lot more on the border than Castra is.
This is like the really exciting stuff that I love the development. I mean, the entire point of this podcast, the channel, everything that I've done was because the development of this game is so exciting. But getting to talk more about these details and looking at how the lore has developed but not quite been written, it's reminiscent of the potential conversation you have when it comes to the features. You talk about the features and how they're developing, and you're like, oh, and it could do this and it could do that in the future. You could do the same thing about the writing and the storylines and the lore, and it just makes it's just one more thing that's like, I can't wait until this game is actually a game. Yeah. That's the problem is you have to wait till it's an actual game, and that's the biggest frustration that I've had as doing lore for Star Citizen is that right now, if somebody wants to know the lore of Star Citizen, their best source to learn it is from me. And that's fine, but I'd much rather do like a deep dive into like, oh yeah, let's look at all the stuff we have in game. Like one of my favorite videos recently was the ASD video I did, because it has almost no outside sources in terms of lore, except for like understanding what regen is, like the Ibrahim sphere and that sort of concept. Everything else is stuff you've learned in game about the regen crisis, about Dr. Yorit, his ASD's participation in the regen, the Lazarus Project, Onyx, all of those things, and all that stuff is in game. It can be found in game. And so I saw a lot of people commenting like, now that I've watched this video, I can go back and look for these audio files and look at these details and start to understand, oh, I get it. Like it's actually in game. All of these contexts and stuff like that is there. Yeah.
The fact that the Vanduul have living ships that you have to feed to get them to function inside. That's like a nice little lore tip. Like people didn't know that Banu ships are partially living. Not like an animal, but more like a bacteria.
Yeah, I'm betting the story content they've been adding has been more helpful with that. Do you find that the things that they're bringing in terms of the new conflicts and stories that are popping up are providing enough lore background, or are they still mostly just like get in, do the missions and stuff, and then get out?
I think adding more stuff to it. The storyline of tactical strike groups and the acting behind it, if you've done it, I think is pretty good. The guy who plays the captain of the what is the name of the Idris?
The Tranquility. The guy who plays the captain of the Tranquility is pretty good, and the pacing that they did the mission at is pretty good. I felt tense when we freed the pilot and he started taking off. And immediately because I was in the ground crew with my org when we were doing that, so I hit the button to free him, and then as we were running back,
Um, the rest of my team were like, "Oh, there's the Mauler," and I was like, "Oh, to hell with you, CIG. To hell with you. This is when you spawn in the Mauler."
Yeah.
You bastards.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's perfect. It's the perfect pacing because it's so sort of, it continues to keep up the like the threat. Like at that point you've basically won, but instead of it being like, good job, you're done, go home, it's like, and now here's another enemy. Now here's more concepts. And then at that point, it's sort of like the tranquility has been beaten to hell and you've been doing your best to keep it alive. And now that the pilot's gone, the tranquility is like, we're moving out. And you're like, okay, well, that tranquility better move before that Mauler shows up because that thing's going to like one shot that thing because it's so badly beaten up. And so you feel the exhaustion of everything. And you're like, there's part of me when I saw that was just like, let's just go. Let's just get out of here. Like we need to leave. But then I remembered, all right, I got a fresh crew that's still here. Let's go fight this Mauler. But the instinct based off of the story that I was experiencing was, I'm leaving. The scene from Event Horizon where Lawrence Fishburne goes, we're leaving after seeing like the horrible stuff. Like, no, I'm done. I'm not going to fight this giant ship. I'm going to go home.
Yeah. And that's, I think that's a really good way, like you said, to end a conflict is you have this sort of boss almost that jumps in. And you have the choice of either deciding, sticking to the plan that you had, or maybe making advantage of the fact that boss is there. I don't know how much you get from it. Obviously, we don't currently get specific materials from salvaging a Vanduul ship. But I think if you got additional really good loot from that, that would be a great opportunity to make some players consider staying, some coming up with a strategy for getting everything out. And some for just kind of being like a little bit confused and like surprised. Oh crap, I thought this mission was over. That unpredictability is a nice touch.
And I think that's a good way of showing that CIG can tell stories that are very insulated and very singular stories around specific things. The thing and they have the ability of telling big arcing stories in the background. The thing that they're currently lacking is sort of the in-between, the connecting the big stories with the small stories, to let players connect with those. What we're talking about, like there's the Tavaran Civil War, or Tavaran, the Third Tavaran War, or the Xi'an Civil War, or the Banu, the history of the story of the Banu. Like there's no way right now that we can participate in that. That's kind of what the Frontier Fighters stuff and what Xi'an or the Xenothreat stuff is supposed to be, but it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like there's a choice and an option, and that you're actually pushing the story forward when things are happening.
Yeah. I'm hoping that they figure that out with this terraforming storyline that they've been setting up, because that really does feel like the main storyline. I mean, I don't know, maybe they wanted to get the planets in earlier this year, but they've been basically teasing that storyline since like October, September of last year. So I'm hoping that when that finally does come about, it allows players to take part in the gameplay to help define who actually is going to own the outposts on Nyx 1. Like what faction is going to have more control over that area, and how does that reshape the battlefield, or rather the economic situation in Nyx?
Yeah.
All right. I would like to get a fun. We got two more things before we wrap up. Of course, we're going to get to those predictions because we have to. But before that, I want to hear a fun alien fact from you. Something interesting. I mean, you've given plenty already during this show, so I'm not going to be too greedy. But something interesting that you know about the aliens in Star Citizen that maybe isn't as commonly known, or that we don't know CIG has in the plans.
Well, I'll give you a more commonly known one, but that people know about that people may not realize though, which is with the Sulian, the Railen, the little floating canisters that they hinted at as like specifically for the Xi'an. Those are fermentation canisters, because the Xi'an are carrions, meaning like vultures or hyenas. They eat corpses, like they eat stuff that's already been rotted. That's
good.
So as a result, most of their food is fermented in some way or shape or form. Let's see if they get to it right. Those right there, yeah. Those are basically fermentation baths. So they kind of go in, they pull out, they eat them. So think like kimchi, lutefisk, that kind of those sorts of foods, so which are usually sort of like semi-rotted, fermented, pickled, those sorts of things. And not to be confused with the Banu, who eat everything.
They are not picky.
They are picky. They're very interested in texture because their sense of flavor doesn't really exist. So they don't have like umami and sweet. Like they don't really have those sort of taste buds, but they taste in terms of texture and consistency. My favorite story is the first contact with the Banu, which was with Jerry. They brought Jerry into a room to see, and they gave him some food to see what food he would eat. And to they were very happy to know that he would eat all the human food. But then they gave some of the food was packaged, like Pop-Tarts or something like that. And instead of opening the package to eat it, he just picked up the package and ate the whole package with the food inside of it, because that's what the Banu do. Like the Banu, if you gave them a plate and told them it was food, they'd eat it, and they could eat it.
I mean, I don't blame him. We would probably try, right? If the Xi'an brought something out, put it on a table, and said food, we'd probably be like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. But that's how we found out that they eat everything. And what they're really looking for, they do have some sense of flavor, but because it's so minute, the only way they can really get that flavor is if it's super spicy or super sour. Is to how they get. Think how I think this is probably inspiration. Is that modern astronauts, when they go into space, often have to take lots of hot sauce with them because 0G kills your taste buds. So they have to. So everything tastes really bland unless you have some spice to it. So they like one of the favorite things that astronauts take up to the space station and on space missions is sriracha sauce, because it adds flavor and spice to their foods. So they'll put sriracha on everything to give it some texture and flavor.
I get that.
So that's sort of the inspiration for the Banus. The Banus just, they can't taste that sort of, their taste buds are gone. So
oh my God, CIG, please, if there's anything that ever gets clipped from this podcast and actually brought into the game, please give us a Banu version of sriracha. Please.
Oh, that'd be great.
Baracha.
They eat like pickled stuff and super spicy things, and they love like crunchy things. They love things that like go crunch and have lots of texture to them. They don't like slimy stuff. They like very hard, rough stuff.
I'm real into the Banu eating menu, I guess. I like where they're going with it. Not the packaging. I'll skip that.
There's an entire section of the language guide that basically is telling you about that and saying, as a result, here's a word you need to learn, which is, please give me human food, human safe food, because some Banu food will kill you. And the Banu do not care. They will just give you the food that will kill you because they're like, whatever, here's food.
See, this is where this is the kind of stuff I think of when I'm hopeful that the alien presence in Star Citizen is different than just you see some different bipedal aliens walking around. Like when it comes to personnel transport, having the correct food on board should be a part of getting the right fare, right? And if you can transport like a Banu or a Xi'an, they should pay more because it's it's a different kind of experience, and it would be cool to be like, well, I have a Xi'an ship, I've got Xi'an food. It makes it so that like the Xi'an gives me 5 stars instead of 3, so I get 200,000 credits for this job instead of 125,000 or something like that. Like that is everything in the game connecting, and I think the aliens offer a really good place to do that.
Yeah, there's definitely some more elements to that which are interesting with those sorts of dynamic in-game interactions.
Yeah.
I'll say the last little tidbit is let's go with the Vanduul. The Vanduul worship knives.
Happy for them.
So they're a egalitarian society. So not egalitarian. What's the right word for it? Meritocracy. They're a meritocracy. So whoever is the best at a specific thing gets to do that. So the best leader leads. Which is why in the prologue, when you see the sort of Okuri being yelled at by his second in command, and the Okuri goes, "Here you go. He's basically saying, I messed up. We lost because I screwed up, and I recognize that I've screwed up, and as part of our culture, here is this thing. You are now in charge. I'm going to sacrifice myself.
Yeah. Big
because
oops.
I failed. I failed my duty as a leader.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, there's some honor amongst the Vanduul, but the Vanduul honor is more about within the Vanduul. They don't care about everybody else. Everybody else is just barbarians. They're the ones who actually care.
They're just resources to be harvested.
And the one Vanduul major ship we were able to capture, which is hinted as to be possibly a Mauler, was a in the center of the ship was a full decked out church, temple, religious shrine. And in this religious shrine, they had the effect of like stained glass. And in the stained glass was a knife. And this knife matched the personal knife of the presumed leader of the ship.
Wow.
So like the knife becomes your personal seal, because you get a knife, your parents make you a knife when you are sent out into the world, because the Vanduul, because they're such a closed society, once you come of age, they kick you out of the clan. And you're sent out on your own to either form your own clan or join another clan, possibly to keep genetic differences, so you don't have like inbreeding and stuff like that from the individuals. So each young Vanduul is given a knife built by their parents as their last gift and sent out. And that knife becomes the symbol of that Vanduul. It becomes who they are. It's their signature. It's their last name. It is their identity. So you never lose those knives. If you lose those knives, you're dead. Basically, you might as well be dead. And so each of these individual unique knives, they're built in the same way, but they have different styles. From one of them they showed was literally taken pieces from UEE armor that they'd beaten into a knife as sort of like a trophy knife.
I feel it.
It's one of the concepts.
I want one of those.
These knives are the sort of become religious symbols, because a really powerful leader is pretty close to a religious holy man, because if you're really good at fighting, you're practically a god to the Vanduul.
Is it still a thing where the more highly skilled Vanduul wear less armor, or did they kind of do away with that?
I think they've done away with that. My guess is they're probably going to make that more of a clan by clan thing. Some clans will do that, because the thing that you remember about the Vanduul is that there are dozens, if not hundreds, of different clans, varying from tiny little few people to like huge hordes of thousands, if not millions.
They're like Star Citizen orcs.
Yeah, they're like orcs from 40K. Very, very similar to that. Though they're more the clan sizes are more of a determine what they do. So that's one of the reasons why the Vanduul, when you first see the Vanduul show up, it's almost certainly small clans that are testing out because they just discovered an area that hadn't been raided, so they're going to go raid it. And it also means that once you see a small clan come in, it's inevitable that larger clans will show up, because if you don't kill all of that clan that raided in, then and we let one or two of them escape, they'll flee and they'll tell other clans, hey, there's this place we raided that messed us up, so they're pretty strong, which causes larger clans to come in and test their mettle.
Yeah.
And if you that's the difference that Bishop made in terms of the lore, is that Bishop realized you got to kill them all if you want to stop them from raiding places. You got to like no quarter or murder all of them, and that prevents the Vanduul from showing up, because if there's no one left to tell the other Vanduul where they were, they can't do that. So
you got to kill the messenger. Come on, guys.
Yeah. It's basically Bishop learned that you have to fight like a Vanduul to win against the Vandal, and Vandal don't give any core. So
That's how it is. That's how it is. Get your knife,
Yep.
Bishop. Put it in the center of the ship. Build that church. Before we get to the prediction, everybody's favorite part, I do want to touch on something I forgot to mention earlier, which was I was supposed to talk about this during the Gatac Railen Gatac. I always get that mixed up. The Gatac Railen section, because it is releasing, like you kind of mentioned, on the back of a pretty bad release. The Ironclad had a rough release. The Moth had a rough release. The Hermes had some problems at release. Generally, larger ships have issues because CIG is not testing them. But the game itself is also having issues. And CIG has not really, like, they're telling us a little bit about the hot fixing and stuff, but they're not doing any sort of major retrospective or explainer of, like, what is going on with the game that's causing so much problems. You and I both know they're not going to till they get it fixed. And even then, they might not say anything. But the Railen is a cargo ship coming out at a time when cargo gameplay is a little bit rough. Do you think that CIG could be a little bit more aware of these things and like not put these ships out, or do you think they just like they're on a schedule and they can't miss it?
They're on a schedule and they can't miss it. There's you and I have both talked about this in the past, but there's a alarming tendency for CIG to basically go once June 1st hits for them to go, see you in September, and basically screw up everything, release nothing, or don't talk to us for 2-3 months. And then starting in August, they start to like pull back out of that dive. And then by September, October, they're pulled back up because Citizen got on hype. Then, November hits with IAE and huge boost. And then once November, similar to that, once the end of November happens, CIG goes, see you in January, and then releases something in December that breaks everything. And then it takes 2-3 months for them to fix it. So it's this weird 6-month cycle where every 6 months CIG just sort of ruins everything and then fixes it within a couple of months. So I wish CIG was more aware of these sorts of things. They aren't, for whatever reason. And I think at this point, it's a structural issue within CIG's own management, their own processes. And a lot of it has to do also with vacations.
Vacations slow things down.
People take vacations in the summer because it's just the summer. People take vacations in December and January because it's the holidays. So if they take vacations in December and January, and you just so happen to have somebody who's vital to your game, to the game, who says, "Hey, I need to take a break because my kids are going to visit my parents for the weekend or for a couple of weeks, or I'm going to go on a vacation to Spain to go to the beach for a couple of weeks with my family in July." Like, what are you gonna do? No, say no. Well, like, that's not why you retain them. So
I know last year wasn't necessarily the best, but it did feel like last year they were at least trying to keep a little bit more attention going on to make the game work better. And we see there's a tech preview potentially coming up in the next few days, which I think is one of their biggest misses this year. It's just not using the tech preview. Do you think that maybe they could try to switch things up this year?
They could. I think it really depends on their culture. They've had tech previews in the past, and they said they wanted to use tech previews, and then they almost never did.
Yeah.
So the question is more, are they serious this time, or is this just the same thing they've been doing before, where they're like, "Oh yeah, baby, we promised we're going to do tech previews," and then do one tech preview and then never show up. They show up with flowers that one time, being like, "See, we're serious," and then everything gets normal again, and they start getting lazy and don't get off the couch and play video games all day, and they're like, "Yeah, I'll find a job eventually,"
Sounds better.
And then you get mad at them. Then when they get mad at them for not pulling their weight, they go, okay, we'll do another tech preview. I swear.
I wish we would get more of that. I feel like they don't. Okay, fine. More tech previews, please.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes, but I am in agreement. I think that while it could be useful, while they could get around to it, I think it's going to make the game a lot better in the long run. They're just like stretched too thin, and they still can't put enough time towards a proper testing channel for Star Citizen. I think that Squadron, I don't know from what you've been hearing, obviously you put a video out about the Squadron date, but just from like my little bits and pieces of chats with people who are working on the games, it definitely sounds like there is still more focus on Squadron than people were expecting. Devs that were expecting to move over to Star Citizen even a couple of years ago to start moving those features over are still being called back to Squadron for polishing. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody can kind of tell that from just the way things are going. Like, if you're following this stuff really closely, you can kind of see how those features are or are not being translated into Star Citizen. But it really is telling to know that is something that's happening still, and to think what would be the case if Squadron wasn't there, taking that effort. Granted, I don't think that this whole project would survive if Squadron didn't have a good release. I think that they're pretty intertwined going forward at this point.
I think it would survive, but it would not be the vision that people hope. Like it would be the death of the dream. It would be what we have now, and maybe new systems, but it wouldn't be. They'd probably close multiple studios.
I don't think they would do the 1.0 like they have it planned.
No, it would be a cut down version of it to try to save money and try to do what they can. Probably half the staff would be fired, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But from what I've heard internally from them is, they went from being polish to recently more of a sort of, I want to use this word very, very carefully, because people, when you say this, people go,
coming, yeah.
people go feature creep, and it's not really feature creep. It's like, an example I can give is there was one level that was explained to me where originally it was like maybe 30 minutes. And recently, for whatever reason, they've been going, we need to make this a little bit more interesting. So like, they've upped the number of enemies, the amount of time it takes. They've made it more climactic, more important. Like it feels, to make it feel better than it was before. That means you need to add more enemies, or you need to add cutscenes, you need to add voice lines, you need to add possibly boss interactions, and all of that takes designers to come in and add those things and then test them again. So it's not really like creep as much as it feature creep, because it's not like adding new features. It's simply just taking what they already have and increasing it, which then if you add new enemies to a level, or you add new parts, stages to a level, that's going to cause more bugs, which means more practice, which means more optimization, which takes more time.
Yeah. It's a good trait to have, but it can be bad if you're perfectionist. Like, I'm sure.
Yes. Like
you or anybody else.
Yeah.
I'm sure you or anybody else who's been listening to this has been working on a project or something. For me, it would be like a video where you make the video, you write it, you edit it, you do all this stuff, you're watching it over, and you're like, okay, wait a second. Now that it's done, this doesn't quite go the way that I wanted it to. And so you got to go back, and that I could understand that. And I think that's part of what comes with polishing. The unfortunate part is just that, like, we're so used to Star Citizen style of development, and none of this would have worked if Star Citizen didn't do its style of development and there was an open playable version, that when it comes to Squadron 42, which is more traditional, it feels really, really stark when you're not saying anything. Especially when it's like, the obvious thing is that we're halfway through the year when you said this game would come out, You've got a big probably 2 month block where nobody's going to release anything. And everybody who constantly for the last 3 weeks has been like, GTA 6 isn't in the same genre as Star Citizen or Squadron. It's not going to, oh, good God. Look at Summer Games Fest. I watched the whole freaking Xbox conference thing, and there wasn't a single release date in November or December. The only 2 games I saw that were even trying to come out in October were like, I think Ace Combat's coming in October, right?
October 3rd.
Yeah, and then I think I saw the Barbie game is coming in November, and like there's one other game, I think Gears of War is coming in October, and it's like that. That's October. Like it doesn't matter what genre you're in. It's pretty obvious that like everyone is keeping clear of this game's launch, and CIG will do the same.
Yeah, so, and I think the thing that I can leave off with when it comes to talking about Squad 42 is if there's a delay, which I'm pretty sure there is, the delay is going to be for multiple reasons, not just GTA. It's going to be GTA, but it's also, as I said, CIG is taking a look at what they already have, and they're like, we want to punch this up a little bit more, which is going to take more time, more effort. And I'm sure a lot of it is GTA is this big thing because Chris obviously thinks about it because he clearly mentioned it in one of the interviews. And the other thing he has been saying, him saying that means that, okay, yeah, he's clearly thinking about it. But I can easily see the logic in that you're already thinking about avoiding November, which means you can't release after November, but it means October. And then your devs come to you and say, we could use a couple months of polish, maybe a little bit punching up here and there, and maybe a little bit more interesting things. And you, as Chris Roberts would go, sure, that's a great excuse to delay the game till 2027 because, I'm afraid of GTA, but it could be a better game. Only a couple of tweaks here and there, it could be a better game. And before anyone says it's cope, which it kind of is, it's also important to look at things like one of my favorite examples of this is Halo. Recently, the beta build for the first Halo came out.
Dude, I'm sorry. I can be excited about Halo for the first time in such a long time. Keep going.
July 28th, baby. So what you're saying is you and I are going to do co-op when that drops,
God,
right?
yeah, dude. Yes. I'm so excited to play. I don't want to distract. We could have a whole podcast episode about it, but
we should.
No, please keep going.
Do that.
We should.
But with Halo recently, like in the last couple of years, or like last year or so, the beta build for Halo was leaked, or was released. So the original beta. And if you, I've been following a couple of people online who've been looking through a lot of these different things, and it's clear that there are portions of Halo that were changed because either like, we got to cut this because it doesn't make a lot of sense, or it doesn't really tie into what we need to. Entire levels were changed, shortened, expanded. They changed certain dialogue entry scenes. They added enemies and then removed enemies. And that is really where CIG is at. It's sort of like they're at that stage of they have a completed game you can play. It works. It's now just more of a, but where are the spots that suck? How can we punch this up to make it better and make it the best game we have with the amount of time we have left? And that makes a lot more sense to me in terms of CIG's delaying for that reason, because we'd all want a better game anyways. So.
Yeah, and I think that it works both ways. You can say whatever you want is the reason for the delay, but I do think that there are plenty of companies. I think Fable probably fell into this category where they were like iffy on a September release, and it was a maybe. I don't know if Fable had already released an actual September date. I think they were still just 2026 up until this last couple of weeks. So it was initially planned for an autumn 2026 release. They did not give a date, and I think that's probably because it was in the position where it could release anywhere from September to November. and they likely were like leaning towards November and probably would have gone for that if GTA wasn't there. But yeah, it's such an easy, convenient excuse. Fans aren't really going to be that bothered by it because it makes sense. Investors aren't going to be bothered by it because it makes sense. Devs obviously are going to get more to be able to do from that time. It is a super convenient excuse within the whole industry. And somebody just posted this picture into the side chat.
Yes, I saw it. It's
no,
great.
Not this one. Where is it? Hold on. I'm trying to. Here we go. Yeah. So like I said, Barbie is
no chance, baby.
Barbie has taken the month, and GTA's got to be careful.
Yeah. There's also another one that's not on that list, by the way, which is a remake of Godzilla Kill All Monsters.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be other small games in there too, actually, but it's very, very clear that all of the releases are landing in September and February and March, and CIG, maybe they want to do a really short marketing cycle, Gamescom to October. But at this point, dude, I would say it's better to delay it. Like, why? Yeah. Why put it out in October now? Besides just the fans who are already waiting for it, which is us. Which, don't get me wrong, folks, I want to see Squadron come out, but I'm just the situation at hand is becoming less and less realistic, I think, for a good release to come from this short of a lineup, and they just have a great excuse.
I 100% agree with that. That's just the thing is. I think the biggest problem people have is not necessarily that CIG is likely to delay the game. It's they haven't said anything. That was my problem. Yep. Was when finding out that it's so widespread that multiple people are telling me that it's been delayed. It's like, so then CIG knows.
Yeah.
Like Jared knows. People at CIG 100% know, and they just have chosen to not say anything, and they continue to have on their website 2026.
Yep. And they continue to celebrate passing $1 billion and selling a $5,000 ship and all this stuff without saying anything.
And it's like, it feels like you're holding back bad news because you don't want to hurt your sales. And that's shitty because we're adults, and you should be treating us like adults. Like, we're backers, not a bunch of, we want to know more information.
How often are we...
Good.
How often are we asking to be treated by like adults, and CIG just consistently, CIG consistently acts like the 10% of people who will get angry over whatever news CIG gives represents the whole community, and they keep using that as an excuse to cut off communication from the roadmap to just probably from Chris being on camera. Yeah, we don't want him to be saying stuff that's not going to be true, but maybe instead just train him to not do that. They keep on limiting communication instead of fixing it. I don't see how that is the path forward. Other than a company that is turning more corporate and eventually is just going to shut the door and be like, okay, we've got the money, we've made the engine, we've made the game. Now we're going to just do this traditionally, and we're not talking to you guys about it anymore.
I think that would also be a death knell to CIG, because one of the only reasons why they've been so successful is because of this crowdfunding campaign.
But that's because they haven't had a game, right?
Yeah, but I mean, even if they have a game, who's going to buy part 2? Who's going to continue to fund Star Citizen?
The next generation.
Star Citizen. I mean, who's going to play Star Citizen? That's the problem, is that Star Citizen is a multiplayer game, and if you have a next generation coming into play, they're going to start. They're a completely different generation in terms of gameplay purposes, and if they just remove everyone from who is old backers, you risk having a drain of funds.
Yeah.
But I also see CIG could do that, because they could be going, thank you for the money. Here's the door. We're going to do things the way we want to now, because you're too much of a pain in the ass to deal with. And it's not going to actually. It's not going to stop people from being a pain in the ass to deal with. Is the problem? Is because people will still be a pain in the ass. It's just now they'll be more mad and out. So.
But I think what a lot of people are probably wondering is, are they starting to slowly do that? Just over the years.
I agree. I think so.
Where is the letter from the chairman? at hitting 1 billion. Isn't that one of the weirder things this company has done, not to highlight that milestone?
Yeah. Yeah, it is a very weird idea, especially since their letter from the chairman effectively was a variety article.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Which is so disconnected from the rest of the community.
Yeah.
So,
it was communicating more with the outside than it was with the actual community.
And to a degree, I understand Squad 42 needs to be more outside than inside the community. But I also feel like CIG has lost the perspective, which is because they've said this, the biggest promoters of the game and their company has been the fans. And if they're like, thank you for your time, now here's the door, you're going to isolate your fans more. So, and here's the problem. You and I talking about this, and the people in the chat right now and people watching this who having a negative opinion down below in the comments and that kind of stuff. I want to reiterate this because this is important to keep in the context. We are almost certainly less than 10% of the whole community. Spectrum is not the community. Reddit is not the community. YouTube is not the community. Twitch is not the community. The community are the people who log on to the game. Though? Yeah, Kick is the community. Same with Rumble. Yeah, they're the real community. The real community are the people who log on and play the game on a daily basis. And those people, in my experience, generally don't go to fan sites. They just play the game. Play the game with their friends, fun in order to hang out with. They're not going on to discuss CIG communications. They may not even know Squadron 42 exists because they're just there to play a fun space game.
Yeah. If you are this far into this podcast, you're like the 0.2%.
You're a small minority of the actual. And if you're in there being like, I'm frustrated, I'm mad at CIG, you are even smaller percentage of the community. Like that's you got to keep this into perspective. Is that the only thing CIG really listens to and looks at is average gameplay interactions, how long people are playing, how many people are logging on the play, and then how much money do they make. Those are the things that matter to them because those are the things that dictate if things are going well. So the best we can do as fans is to highlight things that CIG is doing in a way going, hey, this is not the direction you should be going. These are the problems that with this direction you're doing. And if CIG doesn't listen to us and it turns out to go badly, that's on CIG. And at that point, it's like you're not listening to the fans. And that's happened a couple of times. The only times we can see this happening where actually change happens is usually because there are people inside CIG who don't like the decisions. And there are people outside the CIG who don't like the decisions. The people outside make such a big fuss that the people on the inside feel comfortable enough to talk to management to be like, yeah, no, we agree. This is the problem. Because, if you're a junior artist, a junior modeler, you're not going to go to your boss and be like, hey, I think marketing's screwing everything up. Because if you're a junior like 3D animator, you're not a marketer. So they don't care. And that might make you, office politics may even make it even worse if people just don't want to deal with it. It's just not my job. I don't want to deal with it. But if the entire community is saying marketing is screwing up and you go, yeah, boss, by the way, I agree. These people are right, but marketing is screwing up. Then suddenly it becomes, oh, yeah, maybe we should deal with it. And that's what happened with the flight blades last year, was that outpour actually caused them to go, okay. And while they didn't really listen immediately, this year, they actually listened. Everything they sold that was like weapon kits and bomb kits and all that kind of stuff was available in game the same time as they were sold on the web store, which is like they did listen. It just required the entire community to stab them in the chest 17 times for them to go, oh, you don't like this.
And it's still in the store. So, I mean,
yes,
they make some changes, which is good. We'll see what they do with this. How about though to end on a nice, happy, fun note? Actually, prediction could always be not so happy. I'm gonna read off your last set of predictions because you got some real winners here. So this would have been, hold on, I just lost your name.
January?
It hasn't been that long, right? Let's see. We had a episode looking at Alpha 4.8. Yes, it would have been April. All right. Last predictions. You did have a January episode, though, where you gave some predictions as well. Here's what I have listed right now. You had the Invictus Week Zeus Titan suit was releasing.
Wrong.
You had the Origin 200i was incoming.
I was wrong with that one, but
honestly, the M80 is kind of 200i sized.
Sort of. It's a little bit bigger than 200, but yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right, because it's bigger than the 300. And then you had I just have down here Fast Terrapin.
I don't know what that was.
Neither do I.
An anvil ship that was maybe a Fast Terrapin. I don't know.
All right, well, I'm gonna put that down as your April predictions. Give me something good for today, dude. We're gonna come back in like April, August time. Yeah, because we're gonna have to do a Halo episode when end of July. Yeah. So it'll be about a month and a half, maybe.
I can't do any predictions for a month and a half that haven't already been out there because they're kind of already there. I think that
4.9
instancing will be in. 4.9. I think instancing is going to be in, obviously, because it's in they're planning on getting it in. Obviously, the Siege of Orison. Super heavy. So I was wrong about the Titan suit, but it is the super heavy. And there are some discussions on if the super heavy has replaced the Titan suit. And I don't think that's the case, but the super heavy is part of Squadron. So
okay.
They said that in one of the monthly reports that it's an import from Squadron.
Okay.
My guess is that the super heavy was created as a boss level, like a mini boss or a boss level in Squadron, so that they could have a tougher enemy or tougher groups of enemies so that you can fight against to make them differentiate from like other enemies. A bold prediction, because anything bold predictions I do is going to get wrong.
You can stretch it out to 410, because by the time it's end of July, we'll probably be hearing some thoughts about what's going on with 410 too.
Yeah, the Nix system will be in, or no, we'll be in 410.
You think Nix will be there?
I think the whole Nix system, at the very least, Nix 1, but I think CIG is looking to try to get the entire Nix system in by the end of the year.
Okay.
Whereas initially they were probably only going to get Nix 1 because of that conversation they had where they were like, our timetables were moved up and we had to expand. We had to do a much bigger expansion that we were planning to.
Yeah.
So we're just barely going to make it. So.
All right. Well, let's see. I still think it's going to be their big IAE patch drop. Yeah, but that would be really cool to see Nix by that point in the year, because I think it seems like they're doing a lot when it comes to storyline in Nix, and that stuff excites me.
Well, I mean, I can't really think of anything else that would be coming in 410. Like, there's no real big other features. I've been waiting for scanning. There's no indication of scanning. What's that?
Refining.
Yeah, but refining is almost certainly going to come in 411 because 411 is the November patch, and that's going to be when the Galaxy's released.
So we switch up refining with the Nix prediction for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Honestly, it's an exciting roadmap regardless. I also think that there might be hacking in the cards. Yeah. Possibly. And then suit lockers is another good one.
Yeah, suit lockers. So that's probably going to come out in 4.8. I think that's interesting one.
Oh, you think it'll be 4?
4.9, I should say. 4.9, not 4.8. 410, I do believe we might even see item 1.0 fully out.
Oh man,
item recovery 1.0 version 1.
That would be great.
With your suit, you lose your suit and you die, and you have to reclaim it, that kind of stuff. Because suit lockers is part of that process too. Because almost certainly the reclaiming system is going to be a suit locker.
Yeah, that's fair. That one button press makes sense. All right, man, this is a good list of predictions. I look forward to getting back to you on these. Yeah,
I'll do another prediction on a ship. Is that we'll probably get at least another refining ship, or another refueling ship before the end of it, other than the Galaxy. We have the Expanse. I don't know if the Expanse will make it because there's no indications of it. But then again, CIG managed to turn around a ship the size of the freaking Railen in 6 months. I couldn't be surprised if the Expanse started getting worked on. Because once they start mentioning in the monthly reports the Expanse, the game is up. Like the jig is up. CIG wouldn't be because they will mention it in the monthly reports when it comes out. So
yeah, once the Expanse comes up, it's like that details so much of what's coming up in the next 6 months. Yeah,
this is literally the only ship that's just its only job is refining. So it's like, oh, so refining's coming in 6 months.
Refining is going to be a big part of crafting, like the upgrading that comes from that, the fact that you can do refining out on the field and not have to take it back to a space station. Like that's a major shift for the game. So we'll keep it a big eye out for that one. But thank you so much for joining me. This has been the longest episode of Launch Sequence Podcast ever. We always tend to we tend to do that. Folks, if you are listening, if you're still here for the very end of this, please let me know. To put a comment down below, let us know. We're at about 2 hours and 15 minutes. If you are still watching, that lets me know that we can do more episodes like this. And it also lets me kind of plan out the future of podcasts because I got some ideas. But before we go, I'm going to let Mr. Historian here let you guys know where you can find more lore information, because if you enjoyed the information you got today, there's a lot of it in Star Citizen.
Yeah. Twitch.tv/the Astropub, YouTube.com/the Astropub Live. And if you enjoy podcasts like this, I do a podcast like this called the Captain's Table Podcast. Beto's been on there before. That's at youtube.com/the Captain's Table Podcast. And the lore stuff is found on youtube.com/the Astro Historian. So, yeah.
When is the next full history episode coming out?
Complete history?
Yeah.
It's going to be a bit, because I'm gonna be taking the. It's sort of going to be like a new episode, because I'm adding a bunch of stuff and changing things around because I screwed up some of the timeline details. I'm adding a bunch of stuff that was added after I started the process, and I'm rearranging some stuff and fixing some dates here and there. But I'm this weekend and next week, I'm recording the entire first 5 episodes, re-recording the audio for all the first 5 episodes. And then my editor, Uri, is going to take all of those episodes and combine them together into a single 4-hour episode. So I'm going to call it part 1.
Star Citizen Lord of Sleep 2.
Yeah, basically. It's going to be that full connection of all those 5 episodes. And I plan on doing the same thing where I do individual episodes, and then I will take the bigger combine them together. And then the goal is to, when everything is over with, when I have all of the episodes out, I will take all of the parts and I will combine them to a gigantic, the complete history of Star Citizen lore from beginning to end. So that should be out this summer sometime, then possibly by August. Depends on how long it takes, because it's 3+ hours of editing, which I don't know how long it's going to take you to get done.
That's going to be a lot, but I look forward to it. It's one of my favorites. Yeah. And folks, I hope you are looking forward to it as well. If you enjoy this kind of talk about Star Citizen, space games, really, the Launch Sequence Podcast is the premier spot to listen to development news, occasional lore drops whenever we can get the Lorstradamus himself on here, but also just kind of what's going on in Star Citizen, how it's developing. We bring in a new guest every week to get different opinions. We're going to have some newcomers coming up here shortly. This is marking the end of my ship obsession period of the podcast, which really runs for most of the month of May and some of June. So we'll be getting back to talking about features and development and stuff like that. But keep an eye out. Maybe subscribe, share it with your friends if they like Star Citizen stuff, and have a wonderful day. Thank you all for listening or watching. I'll see you next week.